Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to part 2 of our tour of City of London Cemetery. And before we get into our tour of the graves themselves, I wanted to start us off with something really, as someone myself who loves family history and has done a lot of that myself. Most of it's online now, and what I'm going to show you now you don't see online because they don't note them down. These are basically the forgotten people. If you go to original parish registers and copies thereof, which I have a lot over the years, you'll see in the entries a man unknown or a woman unknown or a child unknown found dead in the street or dead here or wherever. Now, the online family historian people who record all these things down for the websites and stuff like that, they don't record those entries because there are no details that will lead a descendant to that person. It's just an anonymous man or woman who no one knew, that may have been murdered, that may have collapsed in the street, or may have drowned and been fished out of a river. Yeah, as I say, these are the forgotten people, or one of them is, and that's what I'd like to start our tour off with. As I said in the first one, this is a bit more unusual and more in depth, these tours, because we have access to the original burial registers. So let's go back to the 1880s, and that's where we'll begin with a forgotten person who we'll give a little remembrance to. And here we are, the burial registers for the City of London Cemetery, March 1883. And as I said, in those days, if a person unknown was found dead or drowned in this man's case, before fingerprinting, DNA, mass media, all that kind of thing, a description of the person would be put out in the local area to see if anyone knew them, but more often than not, they would go unnoticed and would be buried as a man, woman or child unknown. And that's the case with our man here. Burial 177803. Buried on the 12th of March 1883, a man unknown. He died in Wapping, Mall. His age wasn't known, and where he died was Surrey Quays Canal, Middlesex, and the parish that the body was removed from was Stepney. Plot number 381, grave number 46800, grant number 165999, and it is a second class common grave, so basically the cheapest you could get, but in consecrated ground. The parish he was removed from, as I said, was Stepney, and the man who performed the ceremony was S.W. Langlin, and the registrar was John Halsall. So yeah, very sad, as I say, but in those days it would have been hard to identify people unless the person had been recognised or known, or someone had reported someone of that description going missing. So yeah, I just wanted to give a little remembrance of a man unknown from March 1883. So he would have drowned in the canal at Surrey Quays. So yeah, and on to our tour now. Welcome back to part 2, and while it's quiet and there are no funerals, I wanted to begin this part with this chapel where Linda's funeral was, which if you go back to the funeral day, you'll see that's the church. This is the chapel. It's smaller than the church, but a beautiful gothic style building. Victorian specialised in gothic. Sadly, the chapels are not open really to the public during, other than for funeral services. But yeah, you can see it's a really big gothic structure with lots of impressive detail, architecture. I'm going to walk you around it back to where we were. This is obviously some kind of disabled access or something, I have no idea. But to be buried in here you needed to have money. And these are all vaults along here. Some of them are modern, where we're going to go back to in a minute, at the start of the old ones. You see, when, or before cemeteries rather, people were buried within the site of their parish church, which was very important to them to be buried there for Judgment Day in a more religious age. So when cemeteries came about, people were very reluctant at first to be buried in them, and it was only when one of the uncles of Queen Victoria, who had to be buried in a cemetery because he married a commoner and wanted to be buried with her, it was only when he died and was buried in a cemetery that the public then sort of took on, because they all wanted to be buried near the royal person. But as I say, people were reluctant because they wanted to be buried within the site of the parish church. So these chapel areas, the people that had money nabbed their graves very early on, as quickly as they could, so they would be buried within the site of a church or a chapel of some kind. But yeah, it's an impressive one, and I don't think it will be open, but we will try the door. It's going to be locked, of course, but there we are. They're never usually open, things like this. I don't think it will be. No, it's locked. But look at the old detail, look. And you've got gargoyles up there, looking down at you. Angels. A lot of those were invented first to channel the rainwater away from the building. But this is definitely a real, pretty good interpretation of Gothic, and like the Norman Gothic type of stuff that they was bunging up in the medieval Gothic. I'm going to go and collect my trolley now, and then we shall conclude our, carry on our tour. There are some vaults in this cemetery as well. I think there's one along this way, I believe. Can't remember which way it was. I think it was that way. But I'll get round to that eventually. The family vault of George Walton and Evangeline Abbot of Homerton and Leytonstone. Let me shield my eyes. You've got, in loving memory of our little Leslie, infant son of C.W. and E. Abbott, who fell asleep 15th of July 1890, aged 18 months. Also of my dear wife, Evangeline, sorry, not Evangeline, it's Evangeline Sarah Ann Abbott, who fell asleep 24th of April 1920, aged 57 years. A perfect wife and mother. And then you've got George Walton Abbott, who died 3rd of October 1924, aged 66 years. I'll just pick out ones that I think might be of interest, really, and the inscriptions that I can read. What have we got here? Look, you've got this memorial was erected by Mark and Anne Ruth Dean in remembrance of their only child, Emily Cecilia, the beloved wife of the Reverend J.W. Atkinson of some Latimer Chapel, Stepney, who died on June the 1st, oh gosh, the date's gone, 1884, aged 33 years. You've got in loving memory of John William Atkinson, pastor of Latimer Chapel, Stepney, for 47 years. Until his death, and founder and lifelong president of the Reverend J.W. Atkinson's East London Mission Oh, sun's blinding me. Mission and relief work. Died June the 3rd, 1916 in his 69th year. In affectionate remembrance of Mark Bean of Tappleton's, Leytonstone, who member of Leyton local board and West Ham board of Guardians, who departed this life March the 23rd, 1892, aged, that's 63 or 83. And also Anne Ruth, wife of the above, who died June the 17th, 1897, aged 72 years. So that's just a couple. And these are the rich, impressive people. You get to more ordinary folks as you go further back on, but they are. I like a mixture of both, really. There was one along here that I saw earlier that I wanted to have a look at. Oh, this was the one, Williams. In ever loving memory of my beloved husband, Edward Francis Williams, who entered into rest 1st of December 1938 in his 83rd year. Also to the dearest remembrance of our dear son, Edgar Harold, who passed away 30th of May 1939, aged 48. Also our beloved son, Edward William Thomas, who died 1st of August 1884, aged 3 years, interred at Bow Cemetery, that will be Tower Hamlets Cemetery. Also of Harriet Elizabeth, beloved wife and mother of the above, who died 12th of December 1945, aged 85 years. Then you've got also Hilda, and the inscription's gone, something Ray, youngest daughter of the above, entered into rest 11th of December 1972. You've got that lovely Gothic chapel that we started off with. This one I've noticed as well, look, in affectionate remembrance of Christina Semple, the beloved wife of William Barr Macmillan, who died 29th of June 1900, aged 54. Also William Barr Macmillan, formerly of Greenock, devoted husband of the above, who died 18th of November 1900 in his 59th year. So they both died in the same year. Sacred to the memory of my beloved husband, Andrew Y.C. McLaughlin, Master Mariner, who died 25th of September 1928, aged 65 years, sadly missed. Christina Barr McLaughlin, beloved wife of the above, who died 10th of November 1944, aged 75 years. Also, in proud and cherished memory of our dear only son, Andrew Mack, 2nd Lieutenant, Manchester Regiment, killed in action at Cambrai, 23rd of September 1918, aged 23 years. So that's another war veteran. Then you've got also our dearly loved daughter, Chrissy, who fell asleep and was buried at sea. Oh goodness. 7th of August 1894, aged 2 years. Take a picture of that one. this is what I mean, when you start looking at the individual stories on the graves, you can unpick, well, it's quite recent, yeah, you can unpick a lot of interesting stories of people. As I say, we've got a lot to cover on this one, and I will do it in groups of 2 or 3, and then you'll have other locations and stuff interspersed between. So that's the way I'll do this one, because it'll be too much otherwise. Too much of one location makes Jack a dull boy, or a bored boy anyway. I love old cemeteries, I find them interesting, but one like this is going to take me, if I do 2 or 3 episodes every couple of weeks or so, it's going to take me the best part of a year to cover, or possibly longer. But yeah, the family graves of Donald Brims, Borough of Southwark, London. See, this is an old looking one, like what you would see in a churchyard, and like one of the old box tombs. And some people, they couldn't get away from that churchyard thing. In memory of Emma Kempshead Brims, died 27th of March 1877, aged 27. Also Sydney Dorling, died 11th of April 1879, aged 11 months. Also Annie Glover Brims, beg your pardon, died 24th of February 1881, aged 45 years. Also Emma Byam, died 9th of March 1887, aged 11 months. Also Charlotte Eliza Dorling, died 9th of January 1889, aged 8 months. Also Donald Lang Brims, died 25th of October 1883, aged 42 years. Also James Thomas Brims, died 3rd of June 1891, aged 15 months. Also Sidney John Brims, died 21st of June 1891, aged 3 years. Also William Dorling, died 6th of August 1891, aged 24 years. Also Lucy Byam, died 28th of February 1892, aged 2 years and 4 months. And then you've got also William G. Dorling, who died November the 16th, 1901, aged 62 years, gone but not forgotten. And that's a hell of a lot of people, and as it says on the side, family graves. So with this, they usually put the graves side by side, and they did bury deeper than we do now, but that's a hell of a lot of people for one grave, isn't it? You've got this one tucked over here in the bush. An affectionate remembrance of Emma, beloved wife of Alfred Long, who died 1st of July 1879, aged 51 years. In loving memory of Alfred Long, husband of the above, who died 30th of September 1897, aged 72 years. And then you've got more on the side here, so I'll have to move this. In affectionate remembrance of Alice Verlander, beloved daughter of Alfred Long, who died 11th December 1896, aged 36. Also Charles Long, who departed this life 28th December 1919, aged 63 years. Also Emma Jane Marion Long, wife of the above, died 16th September 1930, aged 71 years. Is there anyone on this side? No, it's blank on that side. And before I go from this bit and we move on, we've got another Commonwealth War grave here. And another one that caught my eye as well, so because it's quite well preserved. Not the Commonwealth War grave, the one next to it, I'll show you in a minute. 27208 Sergeant C.A. Pye, Royal Garrison Artillery, 28th of December 1919. Then you've got here, this is the one that caught my eye, the family grave of Thomas and Eliza, Chasmere, Thomas, beloved husband of the above, died June the 16th, 1882, aged 34 years. Then you've got Eliza Stokely, née Chasma, beloved wife of the above, who died April the 3rd, 1915, in her 68th year. Then you've got Thomas Chasma, son of the above, who died December the 7th, 1931, aged 53. Then you've got Marion Eliza Smith, née Chasma, daughter of the above, who died October, it's gone away, something, 9th, 1937, aged 68 years. Whew. A bit warm. Flies around as well. Off we trundle. This one here, like the one we saw, the box tomb with loads and loads of people in it, this is what they'll be in an affair like this with two graves that's made one. Beeching, this one is, and this is a family plot, of course, in remembrance of Anne Chilver, who died 3rd of July 1916, aged 87 years. Also William Arthur Beeching, who died 5th of December 1916, aged 66 years. Also Louisa Caesar, S-E-A-C-E-R, who died 7th of July 1923, aged 83 years. Also Esther Beeching, wife of the above William Arthur Beeching, who died 9th of November 1928, aged 74 years. Wrong way. There was this one as well that caught my eye. The family grave of Daniel and Harriet Gammon of Finsbury. George Ernest, infant son of the above, who died February the 10th, 1876, aged 1 year and 10 months. Also Charles Frederick, son of the above, who died January the 14th, 1869, aged 1 year and 4 months. Also Emily, beloved sister of the above, who died suddenly May the 31st, 1876, aged 22 years. Also William Deprose, son of the above, who died February the 1st, 1895, aged 22 years. And it's something I always say, but infant mortality was absolutely horrendous in those days, wasn't it? See, there's so many. The more famous ones and Commonwealth War graves and that I will probably cover towards the end of our tour at some point as we go along or as I find them. So, this is a vast cemetery. And we'll go and have a look at the church now. We've been down this way and covered some of the graves. Wiseman, Mayor and Mayoress, that one there, in part 1. I didn't go very far down, so if I spot anyone particularly interesting further down, I will cover them. Oh, this was the one I wanted to go and have a look at. It's a very large and impressive vault kind of structure over here, which we're going to go and see. And I believe that it has windows as well. You know me and Morbid Michael the First, we shall cover anything like that, shan't we, my dears? These are impressive. So we may have to go on to another part for these. But yeah, I'm going to park my trolley up somewhere. Oh, this one's completely grown over, but what we get here is Amias Walker, born at Edinburgh, January the 19th, 1841, died at Leytonstone, December the 8th, Pi. Okay. This is something different, isn't it? I'm going to cover some of these ones, get us to about 30 minutes, and then I'll start with these vaults because they're going to take a long time and I'll do them separately. Sacred to the memory of William Devine, who departed this life October the 18th. Sorry, 9th of October 1882, in the 65th year of his age. And then you've got also in loving memory of Hannah Devine, wife of the above, who departed this life 5th of November 1897, aged 76 years. The family vault of William and Hannah Devine, of Ebenezer House, Old Ford Road. So yeah. If I can get out of the sun, this one's got bronze plaques and they're quite worn, I'm afraid. That looks nice with the sun shining through the trees there, doesn't it? Oh, how charming. Yeah, this is Anchor Road, this is called, this one. So when we cover these vaults in a minute, this will be our next part. So what are we now? Yeah, we're 24 minutes, so I'll end this one and start a new one. So join me for that. Part 3. And now for our historical look back. And we've been really lucky with images and information on this one, really. This was the second vault that we covered in the tour, and coincidentally, like with part 1, we've begun again with a Reverend. We've been able to find quite a lot about him and his other family members who occupy this vault. It's a family of 4. You've got the Reverend, his wife and his mother and father-in-law. But this vault contains the Bean and Atkinson family. Our particular subject of interest, who have been able to find and learn most about though, is Reverend John William Atkinson of Latimer Chapel, Stepney. Now, he was the husband of the vault's first occupant. Here is him himself, Reverend John William Atkinson, 1847 to 1916. And this portrait was painted in 1890, like the other ones we're going to see. The first occupant of the grave was Emily Celia Atkinson, née Bean, 1850 to 1884, his wife. Now she died on the 1st of June 1884, aged just 33, and she was the daughter of Mark Bean, 1829 to 1892, a fairly wealthy tradesman businessman, and Anne Ruth Bean, née Tarleton, 1825 to 1897. And as you can see by the clothes and the jewellery and stuff, they're quite wealthy couple, shall we say. And of course by the vault as well, because that would have cost a pretty penny. But back to our main subject of interest, the Reverend John William Atkinson. Now he died on the 3rd of June 1916, aged 69 years. He was the pastor of Latimer Chapel for 47 years and the founder of Reverend J.W. Atkinson East London Mission and Relief Work Fund. Now this is Stepney Latimer Chapel as it is nowadays. Sadly, the chapel that he would have known and loved was destroyed in the war, and I can find no original images of it. But the chapel dates back, or harks back to 1672, it can trace its roots back to. But the Latimer Congregational Church that our man would have known, Latimer Chapel, was founded in 1817 by Richard Saunders, a layman with no qualification but a great deal of evangelistic zeal. Meetings were held initially in a small former Baptist chapel in Red Cow Lane on the eastern edge of Mile End Old Town, but in 1834 a plot of land was purchased just west of the Regent's Canal in Bridge Street, and the new church was opened in 1835. Latimer merged with Hampton Chapel in 1858 and the Salem Chapel in Mile End in 1868. At this time, a young man, John William Atkinson, was invited to be the new minister at Latimer, joining the church in 1869 and remaining there until his death in 1916. Besides his ministry to Latimer's mainly middle-class congregation, Atkinson also developed a very different ministry to the East End poor. Beginning in the 1880s with relatively small-scale appeals through the local newspapers for fuel for the poor, he moved on to national newspaper appeals and would travel all over the country making speeches and collecting money. The fundraising body was named the East End Mission and Relief Work, and became one of the most famous and important charities in Tower Hamlets. The church in Bridge Street was bombed during the Second World War and became unusable. In 1945, the church was offered a site in nearby Ernest Street, and the new church was opened in September of 1953, and that's the building that we had a look at. But yeah, that's the life of our minister there, John William Atkinson, and this is him, an image that was taken right at the end of his life, and we see him as an old man here, but a good photograph. Unlike portraits, which can sometimes lie, the photographs never do. And this is the memorial card for John William Atkinson. For 47 years, the beloved pastor of Latimer Congregational Church, Stepney, London E1, and founder and president of the East London Mission. Born June the 23rd, 1847, and died June the 3rd, 1916. His funeral service at Latimer Congregational Church, Stepney, and interment at Ilford Cemetery, that's what they were calling the City of London Cemetery back then, Ilford Cemetery, on June the 10th, 1916. So there we are, and that's what we're going to go to now, that last record from the very last phase of the Reverend's life. So join me for that. And here we are, the burial register for June 1916. And I'll zoom us in. Burial 330877, buried on June the 10th, 1916. John William Atkinson, at Claremont, Chorley Road, age 68. South East Hackney, Middlesex. Removed from the parish of St John's. Square 129, grave 51267, and it's grant number 6103. He was buried in a first-class private grave, interestingly enough, like with part 1 and our man from part 1, in unconsecrated, which is interesting for a minister. And the man who performed the ceremony was J. Smith, and the registrar was L.M. Wood. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our man there, John William Atkinson. Hope you've all found this interesting. Join me again soon for part 3, which we get a bit more in-depth looking inside a vault, so I'm not sure if that will be for everyone, but join me soon for that.